Hi, my name is Birgitta. I am a knitter from Iceland, and I have wanted to start a podcast for many years, but never really, I never did it. And now I kind of just feel like, it's now or never. So I just gonna give it a go and become a part of the online knitting community, make some connection with other makers and creators. So this is my first episode. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope there's something in here that inspires you that I've been doing. Like I said, I'm from Iceland. I live here with my husband and our 4 kids. We have 2 dogs, American Cocker Spaniels, and what can I say? Yeah, my husband is American, and for a good part of my childhood and young adult years, I lived in America, so I am Icelandic, but I speak American English. So I kind of just thought maybe since it's my first episode that I would just kind of recap what I made for December and kind of start from there, because I've got a lot of knits that I could show you, but I'll just kind of contain it to December. And it was a very relaxed December. I wasn't doing a lot of gift knitting, but I did make a set for myself, like an accessories set for myself that I'm going to show you, and I made an Icelandic Lopapeysa or wool sweater for my oldest, so I will show you that. And yeah, so maybe we should just get started. So the first thing that I made, for December, I wanted some fingerless mitts, and I can be very impatient when it comes to knitting. A lot of times, if I know the basics of how to make like a thumb increase, or if like I know the basics of knitting, and so I have a hard time following a pattern precisely. I always veer off a little bit, and so I hope and these fingerless mitts I made myself. This isn't a pattern from anywhere, although the other things I made does have a pattern. These I made just with the stitch count that I would usually use on socks, which is 64 stitches. And let me just hold one of them up. So this is, I cast on 64 stitches on 2.25 needles, and I did 1x1 ribbing for a bit. And then the pattern that's in here, this is actually based off the Mercury socks. I love that pattern. I love knitting those socks. So I just took 3 pattern repeats, and I have a purl stitch in between each of the pattern repeats, and I knit magic loop, so I just made sure that I had an even number roughly. If there was like 1 stitch more on one side, I'm not a perfectionist. That does not bother me. But I kept even stitches on each side, and then I just followed the pattern from the Mercury socks by Kim McKenzie. So that's a pattern I already had, and I like the stitch. I think it's a 4 round repeat. So after a while, you have it memorized, and it's very easy. So I wanted a very long cuff. I'll put it on, show you. I wanted a long cuff, and so I I didn't do the ribbing long, but I did knit for a long bit, a good bit, before I started increasing. And for the thumb increase, I have it magic loop, so I would just knit one stitch and then increase, and then I would just follow pattern. And then on the stitch, or the needle on the other side, I would just follow, and then one stitch, like the very last stitch, I would increase before I would knit the last stitch. And then I would knit in pattern and not increase for one round, and then I would knit in pattern and increase like every other round. I would increase until I just tried them on and I felt like it was enough stitches to cover my thumb. And then I put them on a spare yarn and picked up a couple stitches here, and just continued until I you know, finished here. Then I picked up here and just did the ribbing. I think I did a couple of rounds and then I did the ribbing. But I love them and they fit great. But it's funny because this December we had a lot of snow and it was very cold. It was like minus 20 degrees Celsius outside, which is, we haven't had that weather. I think it was the coldest it's been in years. I don't remember exactly, but so as cute as these were, and they matched my shawl I'm gonna show you and the hat I made, I couldn't really wear them because it was just so cold. I had to cover my fingers, and I put them on, good intentions, and then once I got outside and was trying to scrape the car or drive or walk the dog or whatever, I was freezing. So I would switch them out for you know, warmer gloves. So and I've got some like dog hair on here. I'm sure you've seen it. I have, you know, we have dogs in this house, so. But these are, yeah, the fingerless mitts I made. Love them. And the reason why I made them, I wanted like a seasonal set that I could wear in the you know, during the holiday season. And I had already made a shawl, which I can show you. It's called a Ziggy Shawl by Joji Locateli. And I made it out of Cascade Heritage fingering weight. I don't know if they call that base something else, but I ordered some skeins of that, and I made the Ziggy Shawl, and I put little tassels on the ends on each side here and in the middle or in the center. And I actually had the hardest time making the shawl, and as easy as it is, and the, you know, Joji Locateli makes great patterns. I got through the lace bit here in the beginning, and then the ribbing was just, you know, easy peasy. But when I got to this section, I don't know what it was. I made this last year. So the mitts that I made this year was for, well, 2022 Christmas. I made these. This I made 2021. And I had such a hard time doing the lace work for the second row. So I ended up, my mom's a knitter, and we're like knitting besties. And so she lives just like down the street or straight over. But I was so frustrated. She was like, "Oh, just bring it to me. I'll knit the lace work," which I normally don't do. I usually do my own knitting, but I was like, okay. Like, I had frogged it back so many times, and I think I just didn't have the brain space or something that holiday season to make it. So I gave it to her. She would knit the lace section. She'd give it back to me. I knit the ribbing, and then I handed it back to her, assuming that she wanted to knit the other lace section, which she did. And then I got it back and I finished it off. So, so it was a team effort, but I love this shawl. I usually fold it down a little bit here. And then because it's cold, I'll actually tighten it like this and zip it up, or have tighten it underneath. But then once I get inside, I can just kind of loosen it up. But I loved wearing this last, well, 2 Christmases ago. And because I had this, I don't usually wear red unless it's like the holiday season. And I loved this. So I made mittens to go with it. And I couldn't stop there. I really wanted a beret. I don't know if you say it like that, beret. And so I made one. And I don't know if I said with the mitts, but the yarn I used was Sandnes yarn in the baby uk. It's a yarn I get at my local yarn store. It's a commercial yarn, and I just had the fingering weight. Let's see here. So this is the yarn I got, and it doesn't really have names of colorways, but I just got the Christmassy red color that I liked, and I made the mitts out of this. And so when I went to do, this is called the Fallberet by, who has this one? Dahlen Knits. I knit this with the baby uk, and I held it double with kid silk mohair, which I love. And the combination is just the best. And it's not that itchy. If I have it, if I'm out walking the dog and, I get a little hot, I'll get a little like itchy on my forehead, but for the most part, I don't. And I love it. And it sits like really nicely. It's a little bit loose. I ended up, like after I washed it and blocked it, it was a little bit loose, but I kind of find that I prefer that so that I don't get a line, on my forehead, because that's not cute. So, but I'll put all the details below and my Instagram handle. And I took some pictures of this, and I have a reel of me wearing this. So I'll show that, but I love it. It's it was such a fun knit. It was fast, and I just think it's the cutest. So, Fallberet. And I have, because I decided to just jump in this podcasting world, I decided to start a new Instagram with that same name, but I can link my older one below. I'm not super active on there. I've had it for years, but I'm going to try to be more conscious of the things that I talk about here on the podcast, that I put it on the new Instagram with the same name. So but all that information I'll put in the show notes below. So, let me take this off. So that's that. So that set, I love it. I was really happy that I made it. Now I'll have it for years to come. I usually wear it, start wearing it in November. And, honestly, that's not really getting packed away until closer to the end of January. So I get 3 months out of it. That's pretty good. And like I said, I usually don't wear red, but I love it around the holiday season. It just goes on my nails, and love to wear the accessories and stuff. So love that. The other thing that I made that is a Christmas present, I gave it to my oldest for Christmas, although she knew that I was not going to be able to finish it. It just took me way longer to make it than it normally does, but it was the holidays and we're busy, so I kind of gifted it to her with the needles hanging on it, and she didn't mind. But let me show you. So this is actually my biggest project bag. Look at this thing. And I've been watching podcasts for like 8 years or something, and I remember the Fawn and the Fox podcast. She's Canadian. I don't think she podcasts anymore, but I loved her. I loved listening to her and seeing her projects and things. And I actually have, I think, 3 project bags from her. No, this is not from her. This is from, no, I have 2 project bags from the Fawn and the Fox. That's not this one. I'm sorry. This is from Sweet Sparrow Knits. I ordered this a couple years ago, and I thought, great sweater bag. It's just, it's lined, but there's no like quilting filler inside. So it just scrunches up, but it carries a huge wool sweater. So I finished knitting it. I'm done. This isn't a finished project, although I'm like kind of counting it as a finished project because I'm done with the knitting bit. But I have to like sew in all the ends and wash it and block it and formally give it to my daughter for Christmas. So it's a jumper. It's closed, and it's called Reykjavik Soft is the knitting pattern, and this is by Meiju K-P, Meiju K-P. Again, I'll put the links in below, and you knit it from the top to the bottom, or like top down. And this is it. Not sure what you can see, and it has the pattern on the sleeves here and also on the bottom. And it was such a fun knit. It was really exciting, and she didn't want I don't know if you could hear me like putting the sweater in front of my face. I hope you can hear me. I'm new at this. give me a little grace period. But she wanted just like very like toned down color work, and she asked just for a grayscale, so that's why it's all in this color. But I learned a couple of like new tricks knitting this. I can't remember like how the neckline is twisted somehow, like it looks like a what is it, like a tubular bind off, but it's not. It's knit in a way which, you know, buy the pattern, try it yourself. It's really cool because I usually knit this 1x1 ribbing and fold it down. So this was kind of cool, like, and it's just kind of rounded and it's holding up pretty good. Modifications that I made, I think I did. I ended up, this is the front, and you can see the pattern goes all the way up to the ribbing, but in the back, I did some short row shaping to lift it up a little bit in the back. I can't remember if it says in the pattern to do that after you finish the yoke, but I prefer to do it up here, but I can't remember. So the yarn I used for this, dropping it, let me see, is called Drops Charisma. Really nice looking ball of yarn here. Drops Charisma. It is, it says 21 stitches on 4 millimeters, which is a US 6. But this was the medium color. This was the like slate dark gray, and then I don't have any more of the other ones. I literally had just like a little nugget of the light color. So this is just a very, very light gray. But I did the second largest size, second to last largest size for her. She wanted it to be, you know, like loose, cozy fitting. So she hasn't tried it on. I'm hoping that it fits. I'm gonna sew in the ends today and block it, and she'll be able to try it on tomorrow. But I think it looks great. I have made a few wool sweaters in the past year, but for a long time I didn't. I learned to make them. I made them for my kids when they were in play school, and if they needed the sweater, I would make it, but it wasn't like I didn't enjoy it. And when I found all these different kind of textured yarn that weren't like this, I kind of just fell down the rabbit hole of indie dyers and merino and soft, like just soft wools and different textures, and I loved playing around with that and mixing mohair with things, and I still love that. But I feel like I'm getting back to just the rustic wools, and the two other sweaters I made was from Lopapeysa, the plates of wool, the unspun wool that we have here in Iceland. I prefer that when I'm making wool sweaters, but she didn't want that. She didn't, she's like sensitive to itching, and even though this is Drops Charisma, like it doesn't bother me, but it is rough. Like I can feel that, but it's not itchy to me. But I'm pretty sure this is still going to be a little too itchy for her, and she'll most likely wear a hoodie underneath, but it'll be an extra layer, and she'll have her Lopapeysa that her mom made, so she's happy about that. And I don't know if you guys do this, but this is very common in Iceland, at least the women in my family that knit. We don't have any male knitters in my family, but the women in my family, they usually just do this when we're decreasing or increasing. We just have a contrasting yarn or a spare yarn we have. This is from my red knits that I was making for December. And but I know some people use those little light bulb stitch markers, but honestly this is kind of my go-to method, and it's easy, and I don't have to look or hook things on. I just slide it in and out as I need it. So Reykjavik Soft. It's very enjoyable to knit. Loved it. And she really likes it. And I actually haven't made where it's patterned on the bottom for many years. So that was fun. It was fun putting it in the sleeves and on the bottom. So the last thing that I want to show you is my current knit, which has kind of been my obsession. And like I usually have a lot of knitting projects going. I've got a lot of project bags, and I'll just have like a sock on the go, a shawl, a sweater. I usually have like a couple of projects in different, like socks are just my mindless knitting, grab it with me where I go. Shawls too, depending on what kind of shawl you're making, can be pretty mindless and easy. So that's also kind of my carry-on, like the go kind of projects. And then I usually have a sweater going, but like the last couple months, I've just enjoyed starting a project and finishing it. So I started the beret, didn't knit anything else, finished it. Started the fingerless mitts, didn't knit anything else, finished them. And then my daughter asked me in the beginning of December to make the sweater for her, and so I was just like, or I don't even know if I think it was into December a little bit, mid-December maybe, and to make her a sweater. And I was like, before Christmas? I don't think I'm gonna be able to finish it. And she's like, that's okay. So I started and I didn't knit anything else until I finished it. So the minute I cast that off, I cast on something new, and I shouldn't have done it because this has been ready for most of January, for the past week or so. I finished it like the first 2 days of January, and I still haven't weaved in the ends and washed it and blocked it. So I need to get on that. Now that I've told you, it's on my conscience, and I'm definitely gonna make time for that today. So so the project that I'm making, this is nothing new. Everybody has made this. Well, I don't know if everybody, but this has definitely made its way around the block a couple times. And this is the Love Note sweater by TinCanKnits. And for some reason, I have this, I don't even know if it's like a conscious choice or something, but if there's like a pattern that a lot of people are making, I'm like, oh, that's really nice. But for whatever reason, I don't make it. And then like a year or two down the road, I'll be like, never did make that love note or whatever it is. And then I'll make it. So I don't know if it's like an unconscious thing that I do, like can't get on the gravy train like right away or whatever you say, like almost like I'm like fighting the current of doing like everybody else. But I don't think it's conscious. But this is not the first sweater I've made like a couple years later where I feel like everybody's already made it and now I'm getting into it and I'm just like, oh, why didn't I do this before? Like the ranunculus, I made a couple last year. The year 2022, I made, I think 4 or 5. I ended up frogging one of them, maybe 2, but I made a lot. So the ranunculus was one of those, and once I started, I was just like, oh, I love this pattern, and I just made a couple. So this is my love note. I am making it holding fingering weight and mohair like the pattern suggests, and it is just so fluffy. It's just so fluffy and just the texture, and it's just so light. I did use like a cotton yarn. Honestly, it was just something that I had next to me for the cast on, and I've never done this before, so I learned a new method. This is, I can't remember what it's called now. Like, you like crochet a chain, but it's so that the stitches are active, because once I'm done, I'll pick up the stitches and do the collar last, which I've never done, so that's learning something new. And it was a cool way of starting the sweater, and I think the reason for it is just so that you can choose how tight or loose you want the neckline to be. So and I had an idea of putting short row shaping in the back as well, because this is kind of like, it's kind of like a boat neck right now, and I prefer to raise the back a little bit. So I'm just reading, I haven't read the whole pattern through, so maybe that's in the pattern, but I'm just reading what I need to read, doing that, reading the rest, doing that. But I love knitting this, and I usually have yarn going through the sleeves, but my mom gave me these for my knitting projects, and so I just cut them because it was extremely long, so I can use it on both sides. And you knit it top down, and the yarn that I am using is Kid Silk Mohair from Drops, and And this is, they don't have colorway names. Let me see. It just says the Dahlen. Let me see if I can. I think it's all blurry, but color 29, dye lot 219029. But this is like a, it's like a yellow cream kind of mohair, and I am combining it with hand-dyed yarn from an Icelandic yarn dyer who lives maybe half an hour from me. The name is Vastness Yarn. I'll put it in the description below. But I got a gift card last Christmas 2021 from her, and I bought 5 skeins of this, and this actually, this was my ranunculus. I made a ranunculus out of her yarn, but I held it double. Wow, don't do that. Learn from me, don't do that. I didn't realize that holding superwash yarn, I know superwash grows. You know, the sleeves get longer, the body gets longer after washing it. For some reason, I was not thinking about that. I held it double. I made the ranunculus, sewed in all the ends, washed it, and then I was just like, oh no, what have I done? It grew so much, it was ridiculous. I just had these like long floppy sleeves, and yeah, it did not work out. So I kind of just stuffed it in the back of my closet for a while. And last week I pulled it out, and my mom helped me, and my 2 sisters, we had a frogging party, and let me tell you, it is not fun frogging yarn that you hold double. It was a hot mess, but we made it. Thank you for the help. And now I can use this, but it has like these beautiful, I don't know if you can see, oh, I'm just not good at this, but there's like, it's like a salmon, like a light salmon pink, but in it, it has like kind of neon green specks and yellow and orange. So it's fun to knit. I love speckled yarn. I enjoy like knitting it and seeing what comes up, but putting it together, holding it with the yellow creamy mohair, I get this color. And I love it. I think it's really great. And I think you can actually see some of the, like, well, I don't know if you can see it, like the movement of the color in it. But I enjoy it, and so I'll probably just be knitting on this until I finish it. No poly knitting for me. Yeah. So that's my knits. I got a bunch of other things I could show you. I have a lot of sweaters that I've knit. It's just too warm inside for me to be wearing them. I knew that I would just get overheated, so I didn't wear a sweater. I am wearing hand knit socks, but I'll show you some of the socks that I made in later episodes. But I do like making socks. I didn't understand the point of it until I made socks myself and wore them and loved them. There's just nothing like hand knit socks. For me, it was always knitted socks were the thick woolly kind that you put over your regular socks to keep you warm in your boots during the wintertime. But now I love wearing thin fingering or sock weight socks. So I'm not going to take it off and show you, but I will show you socks later. So that's pretty much it for me. I had an idea of like giving like podcast love. Like I like to find new podcasts to watch. And I love when I'm watching podcasts when they talk about who they're watching. A lot of times that's how I find other podcasts, like that YouTube isn't referring to me. And I like, you know, if you're watching somebody, the likelihood of you liking what they're watching is higher. So I thought I would do that. And I have a couple of podcasts that I wrote down. I've been watching some of the older podcasts that have been around for years and years and years. I watched like Kristen from Bull and Vine, Molly from Homespun House, Legacy Fiber Arts, by the Lakeside, Sandy by the Lakeside. Like I watch these podcasts on a regular, pretty much. But then there's like other ones that I found, and one of them is, and I love her podcast. It's so soothing, and I love her aesthetic and her outlook on life and how she lives her life. And her name is Ducky, which I'm not sure how to spell that. I'm assuming it's like Ducky. You know, like the duck, Ducky. And her podcast is called Wool in the Forest. And she lives in like the northwest of the United States in the state of Washington. She calls it like I don't know, she said it's the most northwest part of Washington state. And she's from Sri Lanka and is married to a Norwegian, and they both live in Washington state. And she has 4 kids, and just, oh my gosh, like I just love her podcast. I was watching it over the holidays, and she just has like a soothing voice, and I love her outlook on life, and how she talks about like the importance of family and nature and like your ancestry and keeping your culture alive by by your just mundane things that you do in your life. So Ducky, Wool in the Forest, love her. I also like, I found a new one. Her name is Megha. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Megha. And her podcast is called Skeins of Dreams Knits. And I haven't watched all of her episodes, but I watched the one where she did a recap of all the sweaters she knit for the year 2022. And I just love the sweater she made. I like her personality, and she describes her knitting so well that like she's like maybe 2 sizes smaller than I am in knitting circumference, so it was nice to see her view of like knitting yoke sweaters as opposed to sewing sweaters together and how they fit over a larger bust and things like that. So I learned a couple things that I can actually incorporate into my own knitting practice, which I thought was great. And wow, she knit a lot of sweaters. And then I've been watching Inga Knitting Traditions. She's from Norway. And Sarah who has Mrs. Walgreens makes. She's from Sweden. Yeah, I think that's all I've got so far. But if you have podcasts that you watch or that you really enjoy that I haven't mentioned, there's so many out there now. I remember when podcasts were new, there wasn't a lot of them out there. So now it's just a sea of podcasts. So if there's any you could recommend, I am leaning towards natural yarns, so I find myself watching more of those kind of podcasts, but honestly, I love watching all kinds of podcasts, and I don't have a preference with the yarn. Like, I use rustic yarns, I use hand-dyed yarns, I use just manufactured store, like, what are they called, that you can get in any store kind of yarns. It depends on what I'm making and my budget at the time, and things like that. So that doesn't matter. But if you do have a podcast or podcasts that you would recommend, please leave a comment below. Let me know. Other than that, I just want to thank you if you're still here. Thanks for watching my first episode, and I hope you'll come back for more. And yeah, let me know, like, if there's anything that I could, if you have any recommendations on podcasting or something I could do better, let me know in the comments, and I'll do my best. I'll figure out the whole technology bit, and yeah, need some grace period. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you for watching. Until next time. Bye.